Guest today is Brett Pilkington. Pilks is assistant coach at Notre Dame in Saskatchewan in the SJ. We met probably 4 or 5 years ago at HP1 in Camrose. Spent a couple of years coaching against each other and just became good buddies from there. So happy to have you on today, Pilks. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
There's a nice picture of a young Barry Trotz right above your head.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
We'll start with your playing career. Just talk about that a little bit. You had a very successful career playing. Why did you choose to go NCAA?
Well, I'll start back when I was younger. Obviously, I was born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, in the Southwest there, and worked my way through community hockey playing with Fish Creek, and then I filtered into the Calgary Royals program where I played Bantam AAA and then 2 years of Midget AAA before I moved on to junior hockey. When I was 15, I had choices to make whether I was going to go NCAA or WHL, and with the support of my family and let's call it an advisor or agent or whatever, we decided that the best choice for me as a 16-year-old was to go back and play midget another year and get the experience as a leader, and then look at my options as a 17. And fortunately enough for me, when I was 16 and playing in the Max tournament, school came up to me and verbally committed to me. So the rest is history, and obviously that was Bowling Green. And obviously I couldn't commit until my senior year of high school. So that's how I ended up in Olds. Had a relationship with Brett Cox, the coach there at that time. And it was close enough to home where I could come home, on a day off and see my family. So that's how I ended up doing that path. And how I ended up at Bowling Green was just the assistant coach there at the time that recruited me. It was Dave Smith. Now he's the head coach at RPI. And we just hit it off right from the start, and then I flew down there and met the head coach, and it was the same feeling. Now turn ahead to my first year as a freshman, and that summer, Dave Smith and Buddy Powers and them were relieved of their duties, and so my freshman year I went into a brand new coaching staff, which was definitely different because that summer you're building up to go to school and play for a guy that you feel like you got a real connection with. But like anything in the game of hockey, it changes on a minute's notice, and you got to adapt and make the best of the situation. So my four years there were enjoyable for sure. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts with a focus of international business, knowing at that time oil and gas was looking pretty good for a way to go if hockey didn't work out. And I always wanted to be a sales guy, so my path was, if hockey didn't work out, I was going to go back to Calgary and work in oil and gas, selling some sort of product. So that's where it was. From there, obviously, I was fortunate enough to graduate after my 4 years, like I said, and got the opportunity to play a little bit of pro hockey. My first year, I bumped around a little bit and started out in the UHL, which is the United Hockey League, which is no longer. It was a good experience for me. My coach in that, the majority coach I had there was Brian Curran, who's familiar to the Alberta Junior Leagues, and I think he still lives in Red Deer. So he was a great coach for me as my rookie year, just to learn the ropes and what it was going to take to be a pro. And it was grateful for me that year because he put me on a line with two guys in their mid-30s to late 30s, and they took me under their wing and made me a better person, at the end a better player. So that was kind of that. And then from there, I kind of bounced around for 3 other years or 2.5 other years, and played a couple games, had a cup of coffee in the American League, which was great. But at the end of the day, I knew my hockey career was coming to an end when I met my wife, and we were expecting our first daughter.
And where did you and Lindsay meet?
We met in Ottawa. So so interesting story. We had mutual friends from Calgary that we grew up with, and we never had really crossed paths. And one of my friends was up in Ottawa up there hanging out with Lindsay, and I didn't go on the Florida swing when I was playing in Elmira. So I took the 4-hour drive up to Elmira or up to Ottawa, and hung out with the guys and met my wife, and haven't turned back since.
Nice. Awesome. Just going back to Bowling Green, was there anything in particular that led to that decision for you to go there? It's not, and maybe it was different then, but today not a common school that you see guys from Alberta commit to.
For me, again, it was a big connection with the head coach and the assistant coaches there when I went on my recruiting trip. And then when I went there, it's actually funny. You don't hear about that school a lot, but there was 2 or 3 Alberta kids on that team that year. And the junior team I played on, there was 3 of us all going to the same school. So it was
Cool.
It was kind of like a bond there. And
Yeah.
we kind of all went together for the same reasons. And that we liked the assistant coach and the head coach at the time. So, and we liked the community of Bowling Green. Obviously, it's a small town, college town, let's say, where, if the college isn't in, the population's half. So that's kind of how I ended up there.
Who is the best player that you played with there?
For me, it would be Kevin Bieksa.
Okay.
What separates him? I mean, I played with a few good guys there. Jordan Sigalet, who's now the Calgary Flames goalie coach, was awesome too. But Kevin Bieksa, for me, was the best player I played with and probably ever have. And what separated him from everyone else is maybe not so much skills, but his work ethic. And when you say work ethic, that guy would, he'd go home after practice or whatever, and, myself included and us would go find something else to do. Well, that guy'd be looking for the next weight, the next, run, the next puck to shoot. And, and he played there and moved on to Manitoba and then into the NHL. And there's, as far as I'm concerned, there's no player that deserves what he got more than he does.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard them, but there are a couple of podcasts that he's been on the last couple of weeks that just kind of talk about his path, and it's pretty impressive. And everyone says the same thing, how hard that guy works and how tough he was and how much he wanted it. And so, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Like as far as a role model goes out there that, just finished his career, that would be it, right? Doing everything, all the little things right every day of his life. So,
yeah. When I was going through your elite prospects, there was a year I think you played 2 games in the American League with 2 teams. How did that happen?
So for me, that was the year I was playing in the East Coast in Elmira there, and we weren't truly affiliated to any team, right? So being kind of that free agent, being in that neck of the woods and lots of American League teams, you could get pulled from wherever. So one weekend I went up to Albany. And then later on in the year, we went up to Bridgeport and, played 1 game each.
And then after you decided to finish playing, did you move back to Calgary right away with the family?
Yeah. So what happened is we moved back to Calgary and we had our daughter, and I was scrounging around to find a job because, hockey's coming to an end and your emotionals are high, but now you got to provide for not just you and your wife, but now your kid, and taking it all in stride there. And I was fortunate enough to get a sales job within the first couple of weeks. And it wasn't the job I wanted to, but at that time, you take what you can get. And, it's a life lesson too, that now you're a provider, you're not just bouncing around the East Coast League having the time of your life.
Yeah.
So it came real quick, and I was fortunate enough in the real world to, work myself up some pretty good companies and enjoyed it.
How was that adjustment from playing to working?
For me, playing was natural. Like, it just came to me. I loved it, stressless, and the real world where you got a budget to meet and, a team you're still in a team atmosphere, but everyone's got their own number. So you're out there grinding away, and you get a lot of no's in the sales world, and you learn to get a hard shell. And when you get a no, it's what you're going to do next. It's, you got to bounce back and create more opportunities for yourself. So it's a big part of it's networking.
Was there anything that, like, just throughout your playing career that you think really helped you settle into that transition when you started working in sales?
The big part for me that I took from the game was the team atmosphere, leaning on what you have. So, and as far as, if you need help, that there's people always around that know a little bit more than you. And obviously, surrounding yourself with the right people to make you better. So that was a big part of it for me. The other part of it too was having that little arrogance a little bit to, say, hey, I'm king of the world, you're going to buy for me today. And I think that came from my playing days too, where I might have been a little bit of a rat as a player. So I had a little bit more confidence. So.
Right on. Okay, we'll change gears a little bit. Just talking about coaching now. When did you know that you always wanted to get into coaching, or was that just a bug that you kind of got when you finished playing? Like, how did that come about?
For me, like when I finished playing, I didn't see myself as a career coach, let's call it. For me, I saw myself coaching my kids growing up and being involved in the game, and then potentially seeing where that went. But it was more a volunteer basis and doing it for my family with the knowledge I had from playing.
Mm-hmm. So where did you start coaching? What was with the Buffs? Was that your first coaching job?
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny. So when I first retired from hockey and came back from playing hockey, I came back to Calgary, and while I was working a day job, I actually went out to the Edge a couple times as a coach and worked with Scotty Atkinson. So I'd say that was probably my first kick at it, but that was short-lived because then the job picked up. But so what happened is, fast forward 8 years there, and I was out playing men's league with an old teammate of mine that I played with in the coast about it, and I said, I'm pretty busy, trying to help this company grow and traveling a lot, and I said, well, I'll talk and we'll see. And sure enough, next September, he calls me up and he was like, yeah, I'm coaching with the Buffs, but I just got offered to go up to the junior ranks, and there's an opening there. And I talked it over with my family, and my family's like, you got to do it. There's something missing. You got to get back into the game you love and give back the knowledge you have.
Yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, you have a very supportive wife to spend that time with you, bouncing around the coast, and then coaching and volunteering and working. It's a lot of time at the rink, a lot of time away from the family.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I couldn't do it without my wife. If the support wasn't there, I'd probably still be selling cars or copiers in Calgary. So without that support system, the game doesn't go on for me.
Yeah. So you coached a couple of years in the midget AAA league in Alberta. That's where we kind of met, coached against each other. Was there anything where you kind of evolved as a hockey person as you began coaching?
For me, what helped me the most on the coaching side of things was listening to the guys that have done it before, that are willing to share, and reaching out throughout my network of where I played and coaches that have recruited me and I played for, and lean on them. And, if I told you that I haven't changed my style a little bit year over year, I'd be lying to you. And I think that's a big part of it.
How would you say you've changed because I know that you have, because I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit. But how would you say your coaching style has changed from, say, your first couple years of midget to today?
Well, for me, like when you jump into midget, all you can think about is how you were coached. And that was more of that, let's call it a dictatorship, where you're in charge and the kids are below you or the players are below you. And my coaching philosophy or style today is, just be one of the guys, because these kids can't take all the intensity of that. And just being there for them 24 hours a day to give them as much knowledge as you have. And at the same time, you got to hold them to their accountability. But once you're away from the rink and stuff, there's so much more to life that you need to be there for.
Yeah, and I think, again, we've talked about this lots, but I think that's where the game has changed in terms of coaching, is that dictatorship and firmness doesn't necessarily work like it used to. Even 10 years ago, I think it's changed so much.
Yeah, for sure. And like I was saying is, though, for the hour you're on the practice sheet, or the 2 hours, if you're working out too, it's, you got to have the respect that you're all in with them. And then once that happens and you leave, they got to be able to pick up the phone and call you at night if they're having problems, because their parents aren't always outlets for them. And if you don't have that relationship with your players, I don't think you're not going to have a successful team.
No, I don't think you're going to develop those guys. I don't think you get the most out of them if they don't trust in you like that. No, that's a good point. Was there like when you started coaching and you start coaching kind of just how you knew to be coached, was there a teaching point or a lesson or like a moment where you're like, okay, this doesn't really work. It's different now.
For me is just watching the body language of players. When a coach comes in and reams on the kids day in, day out, and you look around the room and you see the kids kind of dozing off and losing focus, you're like, wow, because back when I played and the coach was reaming the group out, everyone had eyes on them, and that was that respect piece. Whereas today, a kid will just, after one time, it's like, I'm done here, right? There's always something else, and they're dozing off, and it doesn't mean anything at that point.
Yeah. No, I agree. Who would you say are your biggest coaching influences?
My biggest coaching influences right now would be, like I said, the guy that recruited me, Dave Smith in RPI, head coach there, and his assistant, Chuck Weber. Spent a lot of time chatting with them. And then since I've been here at Notre Dame, reaching on, like a Barry Trotz, done some Zoom meetings like this where he's talked about his style and, stuff like that, and leaning on the alum here at Notre Dame because it's endless. So there's a lot of resources around this place that have helped me out a lot.
Yeah, you can see them all behind you. That's pretty cool. So I guess we'll move into that now. So you're assistant coach at Notre Dame. How did that come about? And just going from midget to, because you were in Okotoks the year prior. Mm-hmm. Was that last year? 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
And then now in Notre Dame. So how did that all happen?
So for me, that after that Okotoks years, my wife and I and the kids sat down and we talked about what's the next move, and the family and myself agreed that we were going to try to go all in on this coaching thing, whether, if it took us out to PEI or out to the Vancouver Island, we're down to the States. We were going to jump on it. So I started applying for assistant coaching jobs and, the odd head coaching job, knowing that, I wouldn't really be in the running. I need more experience and take the right steps to become a good head coach. So just started applying and then got the call to interview here, and from there moved forward. And next thing I know, I was driving out here with my family last June and checking it out and signed the contract. And but the rest is history. Further to my job here, it's not just assistant coach. I'm assistant hockey ops, so I run all the showcases for Bantam, midget, and female, and then I run the summer hockey schools too in July for Bantam, midget, and so on, and junior. So this is really my big time of the year. The hockey season's whatever, and it's just another season. But right now, trying to get the kids in here, enroll, that get some interest on campus here is majority of my job right now.
So it's a full-time year-round job. Like you guys have moved, your whole family's moved out there year-round.
Yeah, 100%.
And how has that been for the family?
Actually, it's been outstanding for my family. My wife changed careers when we moved here, so now she's a TA up at the little school. So the kids and her walk up to school every day and spend more quality time together. And the kids can do whatever they want in town because it's so small. So it's been awesome. Not so many video games for the kids and more activities and stuff like that. So we've actually seen strides with both of our kids.
Awesome. That's good to hear. How has anything changed, like in your role, just given the way that things are right now with the COVID-19?
Yeah, so for me, like I was saying, for these hockey showcases in the hockey school, obviously the showcases were canceled, and our hockey schools potentially will be canceled. But again, because we're a private business here, we potentially could have ice. So we're looking at options to make day camps or night, just skill sessions, and so it's actually fairly busy right now trying to balance, but at the same time, you're waiting for the government to say exactly what we can do. So it's every day is a moving target, and hopefully here soon, not just us, but the hockey world gets back at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Right on. What would you say you enjoy the most about coaching hockey now that maybe you didn't necessarily realize when you were playing?
The relationships has to be the relationships. Not just with people your own age, but younger and older, and the networking. When I was working in the real world, there'd become days where I was like, all I do is miss the dressing room, right? Like I don't miss skating, I don't miss shooting. It's just the relationship piece and hearing what the guys have to say. And now I'm back in coaching, and I just love that part of it, right? Where you're just talking to people every day about the same stuff that you like. So.
Yeah. So coaching midget AAA and now into Junior A, it's virtually essentially the same sort of players that are transitioning from midget. Those guys are typically going to play Junior A. So is there anything that you've noticed that's different about coaching them at midget versus at junior?
Well, the biggest difference is you don't have parent involvement anymore as much, right? You still have a little bit, but the ability that you're not locked and loaded with your roster, like it's like night and day, right? You're always able to make changes for the best, or sometimes those decisions make you worse, but you always hold that card in your hand. Whereas you're at midget AAA, there's a lot of pressure come September to pick the right team and the right guys, and it doesn't always pan out how you want, but at least at the junior level, you get a little bit of a grace period after the tryouts. So.
Yeah, and I think you could talk to every midget coach. If you were to pick your roster in December and February again, it's probably going to be different, at least a player or two. But there's nothing you can really do. So
yeah, you're locked in.
Yeah, and I imagine too. Do you find that with players, just not that it's a threat, but having that option forces a little bit more accountability on them?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just on the ice. Like it's in everything they do. We're a little different here because our guys live in dorms, but most junior teams that are billeted, there's that accountability to treat the billets with the same respect they teach their own families, and so on and so forth, and treat the community how they treat their own communities. So, because again, you could wake up in the morning if you did the wrong thing and could be gone from that town and looking for a new home, and your career could end tomorrow.
Yeah. I think really that's all I really had for questions for you. I guess one last one, like just obviously that place is a hockey factory, and you just look at the pictures behind you. There's so many people that have gone on to great professional careers that have gone to Notre Dame, whether it's in hockey or not. Was that something like when you went there, you just kind of pick up on that culture right away?
Yeah, like the culture here at Notre Dame is no other, right? Like the slogan here is struggle and emerge. So kids come here, and I saw it firsthand this first year I was here. Kids come here in September, and life's not easy. Like you got hockey tryouts, you're new to the dorms and all that. And by the time the kids left here, for COVID, these kids are walking around confident, and you can tell they're going to go on and be successful people if hockey doesn't work out. And that's not just the males, that's the females, and everybody on the campus lives the same slogan, right? So it's not this place isn't for everyone, but if you can get through the first couple of months, you'll become a better hockey player and person at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome slogan. That's something I know I've talked about with players is just, and now even watching that Michael Jordan documentary, I think guys have to realize that struggle it's not a bad thing. It's a great teacher. It's something that you have to kind of embrace and go through. And I think when things are difficult, that's what makes you better, whether it's at hockey or just being a better person. And going through adversity and going through struggle is important. And obviously it's been very effective there.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's the big thing here too is when those struggles are happening, you have support systems around you because you're always around kids your own age. There's always teachers and dorm parents that are always around to help you with your struggles to get you to the next step.
Yeah, that's awesome. Embrace struggle and no assholes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How do things look for you guys next year?
Well, right now, obviously, it's a recruiting season, and you're trying to lock in some guys. But with COVID, it's a different year. And but right now, I think we're looking better than we did last year. But time will tell, and until you can hit the ice, you don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Best player that you've coached, whether it's in midget or in junior.
For me, the best player I've coached would be let's go. It would probably be Jake Neighbors. Jake Neighbors for me. We had another good guy, Ozzy Weisblatt. He was awesome too. But Jake Neighbors had all the intangibles I think that you're looking for in a person and a hockey player, and those fall from the skills, the compete to the person, with the leadership qualities, right? So now Ozzy had the majority of those traits too, but I just feel Jake had the leadership aspects, and people could go to him when they're having a problem, and Jake was the type that would pull the group with him.
Yeah, those are both pretty special players. Is there, like, having played with Bieksa and then coaching Jake Neighbors, are there similarities there?
Yeah,
just in their personality, not so much on ice skill, but personality.
Yeah, very similar in how they go about their day. The big thing for me is you're thinking those two guys are hiding, but really they're back working, right? Everyone would be like, hey, where's Kevin? Where's Jake? And really, the place you need to look is on the ice or in the gym, and that's where they're hiding.
Yeah,
so they're trying to get better at their craft.
Yeah, right on. Okay, that's it. Unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about or bring up.
That's good.
No, I really appreciate it, Pilks, and thanks for taking the time. Good to see you're doing some good things out there. Happy for you.
Yeah, we'll chat soon.
Okay, see you, buddy.
Yeah, bye.